Welcome everyone to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into a story, a figure really that most of us feel we know pretty well, Eve. You know the
Mhm.
basics, right?
Mm.
There's a woman, there's a serpent, let's call it a forbidden snack, and then bam, paradise is gone. It's a story that's really deep in our culture. But what if I told you this? The really surprising thing, the central idea from our source material today, is that Eve, well, she didn't even have the name Eve while she was actually in the Garden of Eden.
It's one of those details, isn't it? Once you spot it, it just clicks. It kind of reframes that whole foundational story. It makes you realize how much we can skim over, even in narratives we think are totally familiar.
Absolutely. So, okay, our mission for this deep dive, we want to unpack that specific detail from Genesis chapter 2, really explore the huge significance of naming in the biblical world,
Yeah.
and maybe see what this ancient text can actually tell us about things like identity, resilience, perception, even today.
Yes, it
This should be
was.
really interesting. So let's rewind to Genesis 2. The source material describes God creating woman, and Adam's reaction when he sees her, he's just like floored. He says that famous line, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. You can almost hear the awe, like, whoa, word
Oh,
man. Mm.
exactly. And this is where that crucial detail lies, right there. Despite Adam's, profound recognition of her, she isn't actually called Eve, not in the garden, not yet. Throughout that whole time, while paradise is still home, she's only ever called the woman.
That's pretty striking, isn't it? Because think about it. God had just been naming everything else. Light gets a name, the sky, all the animals. Even Adam has his name from the start, but she's just the woman. What's the
Yeah.
significance there? What do you think?
Well, the implication is huge, really. It's fascinating because the moment she does get the name Eve, it's only after the fall, as it's called, after the mistake, after they're kicked out of Eden. It's only then, after all that grief and, frankly, failure, that Adam looks at her and says, you'll be called Eve, mother of all living.
Wow. Okay, so the naming itself happens after the eviction.
Ah.
Look at the chaos, after the screw up. What does that timing, that specific moment, tell us about the name Eve itself?
It's incredibly powerful. Our source points out that Eve means life giver or mother of all living. Now, think about the context there. Adam could have named her anything, couldn't he? Given what just happened, he might have called her, I don't know, she who messed up or paradise lost or something reflecting blame. But he didn't. He chose life. That contrast between what could have been said and what was said, it's enormous.
That really is a powerful difference. And we know naming in the Bible, it's not just like picking a tag for someone, right? Our source stresses this to name someone was basically a declaration. It was about defining who they are
Yeah.
and maybe even who they're becoming. It had real substance.
Exactly. So if you piece that together, Adam, who's just seen her stumble, who maybe felt she was the cause of it all, he speaks life over her future anyway. His act isn't about pointing fingers or controlling her narrative. It feels more like redemption, a declaration of her ongoing potential despite the fall.
Okay, so let's pivot this towards us, towards you listening right now. What kind of names have you been answering to, maybe quietly? Not your given name, but that internal one, the one you hear when you mess up or when you feel like you're not enough. Is it something like failure or too late, always screwing up, maybe second best, or just disappointment? How do those internal names shape us, you think?
It really brings up a critical point. If that name you're carrying inside doesn't fundamentally sound like life, then maybe its origin isn't, well, divine. The insight from Eve's story seems to be this. Even after a fall, even when things are an absolute mess, even if you feel totally overlooked, you are still inherently a life giver.
Hmm.
God's perspective, it seems, isn't focused on the judgment of the mistake, but on recognizing the innate ability, the worth, that's still there, regardless of the circumstances.
Right. And then let's flip that coin. Who do you need to rename? Could be someone in your life, maybe someone you've mentally labeled based on their past, or maybe it's yourself you need to rename. Our words have such power, don't they? We get to choose. We can keep calling people or ourselves by the wounds, the mistakes, or we can choose to speak to their worth, their potential.
And think back to Adam's act again. It was courageous, really. He's looking at this woman who must be feeling immense guilt, shame, the weight of it all, and he declares, "You are a mother. You still have something vital to give." So the challenge for us, perhaps, is to borrow some of that courage, to consciously stop replaying the old tapes, the narratives spun by shame, and instead start actively speaking out what, heaven might still be declaring about someone's true identity and future.
So bringing this all together, what's the big takeaway? Eve didn't get her name, her identity as life giver, when she was perfect in paradise. She received it when she was broken, grieving, probably feeling completely unworthy of any name, let alone one signifying life.
And it was right then, in that messy reality, that the name Life Giver was spoken over her. It feels like a profound act of grace, doesn't it? And foresight, affirming her identity not in spite of her failure, but right there in the middle of its consequences.
And that message, that's for you too, for all of us. You're not disqualified from your purpose, your calling, just because you've fallen down. Your personal Eden might be gone, maybe it's way back in the rearview mirror. But your future, it still has breath in it. You are still carrying life.
It's worth taking a moment, maybe later today, just to reflect. Reflect on the names you carry inside. And also, the names you speak over other people. Are they names that label with shame? Or are they names that breathe life, that affirm worth? It matters.
Remember this final thought, drawn straight from our source material today. God still calls you by name. And that name, it's not mistake, it's life.